Hey everybody,
Hey guys.
welcome to our series. This is June, it's the month of June. Our series is about camp. And do we know something about camp?
You know a lot about camp.
We know quite a bit about camp. We've done camp, and we're not just church camp, but camp outs and things like that. So we just thought, how fun would it be this month, since we've got different church camps going on, and
Yeah, your kids may have basketball camp and baseball camp, whatever camps, cheerleading camp. There's camp.
Yeah.
Everybody's got camp this summer.
So let's talk about camp. Why not? What does the Bible say anything about camp in the Bible?
Yeah, we see a lot of nomads in the Bible that were pitching tents.
Yeah, camping,
Yeah.
wandering, doing their thing.
So we do want to give a little side note of saying, like, if you guys have sent your kids to camp this month or next month, like, man, do us a favor and just like love on those people that have been taking care of your kids, because you know your kids, okay? You know that they're not always sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah.
And then they're going to go to camp where they're now fueled by the energy of a ton more kids and sugar.
Yeah.
And not having enough sleep.
Yeah.
And these precious volunteers, people who just volunteer to go
Yeah.
and love your kids through this whole week.
Yeah.
And get sleep deprived and worn out and sore and sleep on beds that are not comfortable.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if you're sending your kid to camp, just like think about, man, just picking them up with like Sonic card for the room cabin leader, or, you know, a thank you note. Just say like, I appreciate you taking time out of your life to give into my kid's life.
We're not trying to guilt trip you. Obviously, we're not.
No.
But it does take a lot. And actually, I had the opportunity this last week, to go with a wonderful, amazing church and just go be a part of camp and get to work and volunteer and work quietly. And it was really neat to see just how much their hearts, this church, those leaders and all the leaders that were at camp with us, how much they loved these kids and tried their very best. Right. And let me tell you something. Kids have attitudes. I don't know if you know that or not, but especially student ministry, one of the biggest things you deal with is attitudes. I would encourage you as a parent to set the example of showing gratitude.
Yeah.
Boy, it's huge and it's important that we do that.
You know, I just remembered.
What?
When we thanked one of our workers one year for going to kids camp, because our daughter went to kids camp, and so she was like helping her, and we thanked her by giving her a chicken.
We did. We got chickens for her. So I'm not the best gift giver.
But
I'll
it
put
was
it
good
that
for
way.
her.
I think she liked it.
She was like a chicken person. Like, it worked.
Yeah.
Don't just give anybody a chicken. Don't give me a chicken.
They'll show up and be like, I appreciate you taking my kid. Here's a chicken.
Yeah.
You know, animals are probably not the first go-to. I would think a gift card, give them a place to go eat or something like that.
Or just a note.
Yeah,
Just
a note,
nice
just a
note.
letter. It doesn't have to be expensive, but an act of gratitude means the world to those who are taking care of your children, your students, and maybe even you. Even if it's a family camp, tell someone who's in charge, somebody who's putting it all together, thank you so much.
Yeah, because there's so much work that goes in behind the scenes.
Huge.
And even those people who are just going as sponsors, like, there's still so much work. Like, they had to like get their lives in order to leave.
Yeah.
If they had to find care for their students or their pets or their home, or
and this is our other, if they had to if they have another job,
and this is their vacation.
They chose vacation to spend with your kids.
Yeah,
half
that's
of you
huge.
wouldn't choose vacation with your kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, would you take your kid and 14 other students and be like, yeah, I'll take my vacation for them? Probably not.
Right.
Also, I want to say this. Thank you for trusting
Yes.
people with your students. It means the world. And I hope you know that the ones I talk to don't take it lightly. The ones I know say, man, it's huge. I thank you for trusting them. I thank you for volunteering to go if you decide to go. But making sure that you show gratitude during the camp season is huge. We need to stop talking about this.
That is our PSA.
Public
For
service announcement.
thank a camp worker.
Yeah, thank someone who's taking care of your kids at camp. Love them. Even if it's a basketball camp, thank them for it.
Yeah.
So we are actually, just so you know why we're in
Yeah,
weird
we're in our
location.
car.
Yeah.
Obviously.
We've been busy. Okay, so we're actually over at Disney Assembly of God. They're having their VBS, so we have the girls here doing that, and we've been running all day.
Yeah,
It's
birthday party, church. It's just a lot.
birthday parties, church. I had to work on
Your dad's light.
the dad's had a light go out. There's just stuff. Everybody's got stuff.
But
And
we're
so-
making time for you guys.
because you're important.
And we want to kick off this series.
And we want to kick off this series. Let's do it and quit talking about it. 5 minutes in, here's our series, Camp.
Camp. We are going to be in Genesis chapter 12 today, talking about Abraham. You know, Abraham was a wanderer.
Yeah.
But he, you know.
We call him a nomad.
A nomad.
Abraham's the first person who that we see in the Bible. We take a reference of. He is the founder of the nation of Israel. It is his people. God says, I'm making a covenant with you, sir, because I love you. And I want something different for you. And God loved him and even called him his friend. And so we're going to see that as we go on. But we're going to talk about how did this friendship go? How did it start off? And it has a lot to do with camping.
Yeah, and so we actually see Abraham kind of referenced a little bit here at the end of chapter 11, but we're going to pick up for time's sake in chapter 12.
PSA, by the way.
And so,
right here. I'm living off of Dr. Pepper and prayers right now. Just
he
so
still hasn't got enough sleep to like be a normal person yet.
I've had like 26 hours sleep. Still not there. It's going to take 48. Go ahead.
So chapter 12 of Genesis says, Now the Lord said to Abram, Go forth from your country, and from your relatives, and from your father's house, to the land which I will show you. And I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you, and make your name great. And so you shall be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth will be blessed. What a promise.
Yeah, we actually, Ben Coates at Family Praise this morning talked about Abraham being blessed of God, but it was for the purpose of being a blessing to others.
That's right.
And that's an important thing to, if you would, camp on. That we would know that we are to be a blessing to other people.
Yeah, and I do love that God is saying, I'm going to make your name great. Because just before this, in the Bible, like we're reading through it, it talks about Tower of Babel. And they were like taking this commission on themselves.
To make themselves
To make themselves great, to make their own name great. Not to make God's name great. Not to let God make them great. They were trying to do it in their own power. And so here we see that God's saying, you're not even going to have to try. I'm going to make your name great. All you need to do is walk in obedience here.
Right.
And so it says, so Abram went forth as the Lord had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. It's a spoiler alert.
Who's this Lot? Lot's tagging along. He's like, that sounds like a good thing. I'll do it. Lot is going to be somebody who says, that sounds right to me. Abraham goes, God's telling me to do something.
Right, so I'm going to do it.
And then Lot's the one who says, ooh.
If God's got promise for you, I think I'm going to just tag along.
Yeah, tag along.
But God did just tell Abram to leave his family. And here Lot is going along. So that's going to be a problem later. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Lot's like that annoying little brother.
He's actually Abram's nephew.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I said like annoying a little brother, but yeah.
Right.
Annoying little nephew. We can do that too.
Hey, I've got one of those. I won't tell you guys which one. There's a lot of
That is terrible.
I have a lot of nephews.
That's terrible.
It's okay. Now Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. Abram took Sarai, his wife, and Lot, his nephew, and all their possessions which they had accumulated, and the persons which they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan. Thus they came to the land of Canaan. Abraham passed through the land as far as the site of Shechem to the oak of Moreh. Now the Canaanite was in the land.
Now, let's just pause. Most of you just heard wah, 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 wah. There was land. God saying, Abraham, I need you to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And we're giving detail right now in the Bible as to what that land was, so we understand why he went through it, what this land was, and what it would be for him one day.
Yeah, and so from what I kind of looked up here, these spots that he's stopping through the land of Canaan is essentially kind of right down the middle. And we're going to see him stop, camp, and then set up altars to the Lord. Because wherever he was camping, he wanted to make sure that he was still honoring God.
He was worshiping God.
Yeah.
That's important. Wherever you are in your journey of life, are you just living? Are you being tossed by the winds and the waves? Are you just living? Or are you actually abiding, like saying, I'm going to camp whenever I have to stop somewhere? I'm going to make a place for the Lord. I'm going to dig
praise the Lord.
I'm going to dig deep wells so I have what I need, living water flowing through me, and I'm also going to chase after God and say, God, I'm going to give you worship and praise in these places.
It's like the thing that says like bloom where you're planted.
Yeah.
Yeah, praise where you're camped.
Praise where you're camped. Go ahead and just tweet that. Send that to your friend. Tell them you need to praise where you're camped. Somebody comes to you today and says, I'm having a hard time. Say, are you praising where you're
Right.
camped?
If you're in the middle of struggle, praise through your camp. Like,
Don't camp in complaining, but camp in worship.
Exactly.
Hallelujah. Right in the car. Right here.
The Lord appeared to Abram and said, to your descendants, I will give this land. So he hasn't told him that. He just said, go to the land.
This is new.
And so now he's saying, I'm going to give it to you, Abram. And so this is where...
Pause. I'm going to give you the land. Everywhere you've been going and worshiping, everywhere that you've been claiming, like you put your stakes down, God's saying, all these places where you honored me, I'm going to give that to your kids.
That's right.
Or
So,
think about that. How does that apply in your life? Go ahead.
yeah. So he builds an altar there and to the Lord who appeared to him. So again, he responds to God's promise with worship. He believes him. And that's why we see over and over again that Abraham is credited as righteous, because he repeatedly chooses to believe. Now he messes up and he falters. He's not perfect by any means, but he chooses to believe him here. When God told him to go, he went. He was called to camp.
Yeah, and he camped.
That's right. Verse 8. Then he proceeded from there to the mountain on the east of Bethel and pitched his tent. That's camping.
Yeah.
With Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord and called upon the name of the Lord. So again, he's making these like sacred spots through the middle of the land that God is giving him. Like, do we do that? Do we make sacred spots in the middle of our life, in the middle of our trials, in the middle of our successes? Is God still in the middle of them?
Now remember, Bethel, years from now, Jacob would get to Bethel. And he would call that the place, the house of the Lord.
Yeah.
And then Ai, if you guys will remember this, is the first, tell me if I'm wrong on this, pretty sure I'm right on it. They were on the other side of the Jordan and they fought Ai. It was one of the first victories.
I don't remember for sure, to confirm you there.
Ai was a bad place either way. Here's what I'm saying. Between the house of the Lord and the troubles that were coming, and the troubles that were, there he was. And oftentimes we find ourselves between, it feels like we're between God and brokenness. And we have to see, are we going to be focused on brokenness? Are we going to be focused on God? Are we going to be focused on the war with the enemy, which we will take? Or are we going to remember that God's right there?
Right.
You know what I mean? So that was my...
These are milestones. Like, these are giant memory maker marks of, like, for the future generations when things do get rough. Like, like, hey, God's good.
Yeah.
He gave us this land.
Yeah.
He's gonna get us through.
Joshua would remember this.
Yeah.
And he would say, oh, you know, Moses told me about this, that Abraham camped between Bethel and Ai. And Joshua would have to be the one who fights Ai.
So now we're going to move on to verse 9. It says, Abram journeyed on, continuing towards the Negev, down to Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was severe in the land. Now, what always struck me here is that God doesn't tell him to go to Egypt. God just told him he was going to give him this whole land, and he was going to make him great, and he was going to take care of him. But Abram saw the famine and chose to go somewhere else.
Pick up the tents and go somewhere else.
Yeah. He, I don't think, wanted to camp in his struggle.
Ooh.
Right?
Well, we don't have to go there.
Sometimes we have to be there until God calls us out.
Do we?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah. And trust God to take care of us in it. And stop striving to get out of it on our own. And that, you know, Pastor Ben was saying that this morning too in his sermon.
Yeah. I didn't appreciate my toes being stomped on then either. Okay, let's move on.
It came about when he came near Egypt that he said to Sarai, his wife, see now, I know that you are beautiful, a beautiful woman. And when the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife, and they will kill me. But they will let you live. Please say that you are my sister, so that it may go well with me because of you, and that I may live on account of you.
Is that not the weirdest soap opera you've ever seen, like heard of?
Yeah,
just tell them you're my sister so they don't kill me.
Again, we see a little bit of compromise. He's decided, oh, I don't like famines, and I don't know if God's going to take care of me, even though he just said he's going to make me a great nation.
Right.
So I'm going to go down to Egypt, where again, I'm going to say, oh, I don't really trust that God's going to actually take care of me and preserve my life.
We're just going into a thunderstorm. It's okay.
Yeah. And so again, here he is not trusting, and he's jeopardizing the promise of being a great nation and the future promise of God giving him an heir through Sarah by kind of just letting her be taken.
Yeah. So that goes back to the thing of, if you don't camp where God wants you to be and you're running around doing your own thing, it's going to bring destruction.
Yeah, compromise leads to destruction every time.
But God's bigger.
Yes, he redeems it. And that's what we're going to see, is even though Abraham's kind of a screw up here, God's going to rescue him.
Yeah.
So, it came about when Abram came to Egypt. The Egyptians saw the woman was very beautiful. Pharaoh's officials saw her and praised her to Pharaoh, and the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. Therefore, he treated Abram well for her sake and gave him sheep and oxen and donkeys and male and female servants and female donkeys and camels. But the Lord struck Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abraham's wife. Then Pharaoh called Abram and said, "What is this you have done? Why did you not tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she is my sister, so that I took her for my wife?"
Pause. Now, Abraham's over there. Abram, at this point, is getting all these gifts from Pharaoh, not because Pharaoh's a good guy. This is the thing of like, okay, well, you're the brother.
Yeah, you're essentially getting the bride price.
Yeah, you're getting, he's paying, if you will,
yeah,
for how do you say
Sarai.
it? Sarai. He's paying for Sarai, be like, hey, let me give you a little bit more. Let me give you a little bit more. And like, is it okay? Are we good? And Abe's sitting back there just like, okay, la la la.
Yeah, he's getting rich off the deal.
And then whenever it comes to the point they're getting boils and different things and bad stuff's happening, now Pharaoh's going, uh-oh.
We messed up.
Something is
Yeah, it doesn't say how he found out, but he found out.
Well, yeah. Now, because this story gets messed up with Isaac's.
Isaac, that story, yeah.
We won't go there.
No.
Let's go to...
And so the last little bit here says, "Why did you say she is my sister, so that I took her for my wife? Now then, here is your wife. Take her and go." Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they escorted him away with his wife and all that belonged to him.
Yeah, he didn't take back anything. He just said, get her and go.
Yeah.
Go away.
So he still got rich off this deal.
Yeah, God redeemed it.
Which is troubling, I feel like, for me. I'm like, you shouldn't get away with something, but that's legalistic.
Yeah.
And so
God still
turned it
had,
for good.
There was still grace in the Old Testament.
It did. But we also see that, again, this compromise started with he went to Egypt when he shouldn't.
Yeah.
Then he lied and didn't trust God to get him and Sarai through.
Right.
Then he gets rewarded with all of this stuff, right? Which ends up being a problem later on, because part of what he got here were male and female slaves, Egyptian male and female slaves. So I don't know if you're familiar with the story of Abram, but the one that they kind of mess up with later, Hagar, is an Egyptian slave.
So most likely came from this.
Probably. And so again, one more thing that just spirals into more compromise for them.
Your compromises you make today will become your nightmares tomorrow.
Yeah. And so I think one of our big takeaways from this today is that, for one, camp where God tells you to camp, and stay where he tells you to stay.
Yeah.
And leave when he tells you to leave.
Yeah. Don't be a lot who says, "Oh, well, this looks like I think I'll follow them because it looks like it's going to work out."
Oh yeah, no. God's calling is specific for your life.
Yeah.
Don't piggyback on somebody else's.
Don't piggyback on somebody else's. And I know people who say, like, they sell everything and they go with the pastor to a new church to go start it. You better make sure
that you're called too. Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of relationships be totally decimated because people were following a person and not following the voice of God.
Yeah.
Be careful. Follow the voice of God. Know that where you're planting your tent, where you're driving your stakes in the ground, you are making sure that those are being driven in the place God's called you to. Right. And when the storms come, when the hardships come, when famine comes, when you're feeling a little dry, that's just when we dig deeper wells in Him.
It doesn't mean that that's the absence of God. That's an opportunity for you to learn that God's going to take care of you in a bigger way.
Right. Because in those places, everybody else who's not supposed to be there will leave. Right. And that will get you more land, more opportunity. And then when the grass does grow and the good things do happen, you're sitting back there going, no, all this is mine now because I bought it from. I worked for it. God gave it to me. When everybody else left, when it was getting hard, I stayed where God told me to stay. And now I reap a reward of abundance
Right.
because of my faithfulness.
I don't think people really understand the provision of God until you've been in a place of wanting and in a place of lack. That's when you see God's hand of provision shine through.
Well, and let me say this. We're going to tell you this right now. If you're in a place where you have stability because of your finances, because of your situation with your job or whatever, you have stability that's from the earth or from your mind or whatever, you are living in a false security.
Right, because it can all be taken
Everything
so
can go away.
fast. And so,
The only true security you have is to say, God owns it all. God has it all. It was never mine. It doesn't belong to me. It is His.
yeah.
And He will pour out when He wishes to pour out. And I will receive it with a humble heart. Do not get into a place where you're pitching your tent everywhere where you can get easy meals.
Yeah.
Okay? That leads you to dumpsters.
Right, because he could have stayed with his family.
Yeah.
I mean, his dad was still living at the time.
Still take care of his son.
Yeah, I mean,
But instead,
real Ben Cushy right there to have everybody together.
but instead he listened to the voice of God and said, I'm going to move out.
Yeah.
So he did right, started right, should have kept going right, and he will. He'll come back around.
Right, but that's my other takeaway is that even if you mess up, guys, even if you move before you're supposed to move or, leave before you're supposed to leave, like, God redeems that. And we see over and over again through the story of Abraham that he messes up and God never once says, oh, that's it, fine. You're not the promised land guy anymore.
Yeah, final thing, just so we can get, and then we're going to be done. When Abraham makes a covenant with God, and you can go on and read that.
Yeah.
The tradition is that there would be an aisle, if you will, where the sacrifices were split, the covenant offerings were split, one on one side, one on the other.
Right.
And then the two people making the covenant would walk down and back. I think get back.
Yeah.
Would walk down and back, and it's a sign of I agree, and the other person comes back and says I agree. And this covenant was to death.
Yeah,
You
it
did
was
not break
essentially
this covenant.
saying that why they walked through was to say that if I break this covenant, may what's happened to these animals happen to me. May I be killed. May
Ripped in
I
half.
be sacrificed. Because we're not going to break this. This is a big vow, a big deal.
But when God makes his covenant with Abraham, Abraham prepares it all the way God tells him to, and then Abraham is not allowed to walk.
Yeah, God knocks him out, makes him take this super deep nap so that he can't be there. He's still aware of it all. He can see God.
God comes down.
symbol walk through.
God comes down and he walks through
So
it
he takes all the consequences on.
Yeah.
And doesn't let Abraham do it.
because he knows Abraham could fall.
Right. And it's not until God talks to him several times later that God really requires anything from Abraham. Like, it's not until finally he says, okay, you guys have been messing up a little bit. You need a sign to remember this. And then that's why he has Abraham then do the covenant of circumcision.
Yeah, we won't go into that. That's
But
not...
anyway, read Abraham's story. It's fascinating.
The point is,
Camping. Sorry.
the point is, camp in the Lord. He's not asking you to fulfill all of the requirements and all of those. He is so good that he sent his son to die for you so you don't have to be perfect. Jesus says, be holy as I am holy. You just have to say, I'm going to be in Christ. I'm going to choose to do what he's told me to do. I'm not going to keep following the old patterns. I'm not going to keep living in the tent of the dead man. I'm not going to keep driving my stakes in sin and in broken areas. Rather, I'm going to put my tent where God tells me to be. I'm going to reside there, and I'm going to do what he tells me to do. Because in those places, even in the trials, even in the storms, they are far better than me going to distant places that look better and finding myself
in
compromise. So in our obedience, we camp in obedience.
Yeah.
That's really what we should say today.
Camping in obedience.
Camp in
trusting
obedience.
in him.
All right. With that, know that we love you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for another episode of Camp.
Yeah, hopefully in our and not in our car and not raining.
Hopefully not.
But we'll see. No promises.
All the lightning, it's just like, it's not flash photography. The paparazzi found it.
Oh gosh.
Okay, sorry. Bye, guys.
Bye guys.